Do you ever get that feeling where something just feels off? There's nothing wrong per se, but something just doesn't feel quite right. Work is going okay and life is generally good, but you can't shake this feeling that something is missing. Sometimes this flat feeling can also make us feel guilty too, because if we have no reason to feel this way, oftentimes we just tell ourselves that we should be happier. Well, just like everybody, I've been there too, but I actually have an exercise that you can do today, which will not only tell you where that feeling is coming from, but also point you in the direction that you should go to put it to bed once and for all. If you're new here, my name is Shane, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I just love helping people make their lives happier than they ever thought possible. As we all know, life is pretty multifaceted. At a basic level, we're at our careers and our family life, which isn't even just limited to our direct, immediate family, but also our friends and other people that we care about too. Going beyond that, we've also got our health and our fitness and our hobbies, and you could actually probably spend hours breaking down your life into tens, if not hundreds of different categories that we spend time across our lives. But with so much going on in our lives, it can often be incredibly difficult to make sure that we're staying on top of all these different categories that are important to us. To make it even worse, we can't even compare ourselves to others because what I find interesting won't line up with what you find interesting. And so as soon as you compare yourself to somebody else, you're probably going to head down the wrong track. And this is where a tool called the Wheel of Life comes into play. Essentially, what it does is break your life down into 8 different categories, which will then allow you to score them based on the level of satisfaction they bring in your life, but more importantly, how important each one is specifically to you. How you create it is super simple. All you need to do is answer 3 questions for each category, which will allow you to score your satisfaction, or more importantly, dissatisfaction in each of those areas. By going through this process, what you will get is a high-level overview of how balanced your life is. And as you can see from this worked example, this person is scoring very, very well in their satisfaction across their career and their family life, but their spirituality and hobbies are lagging behind. And so what they would be best positioned to do is actually focus energy in those areas so that they can bring those scores up. Now, there is a couple of things to keep in mind when you're going through this exercise for the first time. And the first one is that the goal of this isn't necessarily to get everything to a perfect score of 10. While that does initially seem like it would be a good idea, the first thing that you should be striving for is actually balance. It's kind of like having a tire with a flat spot on it. Until you actually get rid of the problem, you're always going to feel a little bit stuck and a little bit out of control. By seeing all this information laid out on a table in front of you, essentially what you're doing is accelerating the rate at which you can find happiness. Because if you didn't have this information and you kept pushing as you already are, yes, you might take something that's already at a 7 and bring it to an 8 or to a 9, but those gains are going to be marginal, and yes, they'll come with some happiness, but the impact is going to be quite small. If instead you knew where you're only scoring a 1 or a 2, spending a little bit of focus on that can make a significant step forward in terms of the happiness that it's bringing to your life, but also removing things that may be causing dissatisfaction. By creating this clear and focused plan, essentially what you're doing is reducing your level of overwhelm and empowering yourself to know that when you take action, it's actually going to make an impact. Okay, so this all begs the question then of how do you actually create your own Wheel of Life? And for that, I'm going to give you 2 options. The first and easier one is a PDF file linked down in the description below, which will talk you through the entire process. But for those of you who are looking for something a little bit quicker and simpler, what I'm going to do is show the questions up on the screen so that you can actually pause this video and take a screenshot and mark them down as you see fit. Now, it's important to note that when you're scoring these questions, what you're actually doing is rating the satisfaction that each of these areas are bringing and not just the level of effort that you're bringing to the table. Once you've answered all the questions, what you'll be left with is an overall score for each different category, and all that's left to do is to plot it on a blank template. If you've downloaded the PDF, one of those is included on the last page, but if you instead took a screenshot, here's one that you can use too. And now that you have your completed Wheel of Life, what you will essentially have is an incredibly clear image of where you're doing really, really well and feeling satisfied, and then what areas are feeling left behind, giving you the ability to form really robust action plans to move that needle forward in a way that was never possible before. For the lower scoring areas of your life, what you need to do now is just to sit down and form action plans to try and bring those scores up. But one thing to keep in mind is that the actions that you need to take are probably going to only need to be very, very small. Because those scores aren't quite good, the level of action and effort that's going to be needed to bring them forward isn't really that high. especially when you compare them to the level of effort and energy you've already been investing in the areas that have been doing really, really well. And I bet that if you follow this process, after just a few weeks, you're going to be incredibly surprised at how much more balanced and in control you feel. The Wheel of Life exercise is an incredibly simple tool, but don't let simple fool you for being ineffective, because more often than not, what we're lacking isn't necessarily the effort or energy to actually do action, but it's understanding where that action should be focused on. And by having the clarity that comes from the Wheel of Life, we can make sure that the actions we're taking day to day are actually going to move the needle and make our life so much happier. The Wheel of Life exercise is incredibly simple, but simple doesn't mean ineffective, and I really hope that you found this video useful. If you did, I really hope that you'll consider subscribing and maybe watching some of the other videos that I have on my channel. But with all that said, that's this week's video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace!